find yourself living in a shotgun shack, and you may find yourself in another part of the world, and you may find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile, and you may find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife, and you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? Let the days go by, let the water hold us down, let the days go by, water flowing underground to the blue again, after the money's gone, once in a lifetime, water flowing underground. This is a topic that I feel has been completely overlooked by the TF2 community for quite some time now. 6 years to be clear. And that is, TF2 has been completely stuck for the better part of a decade. Ever since the Blue Moon update, we have seen a stark decrease in the variety of content that's been added to the game. Since 2018, we have seen nothing outside of hats, maps, unusual effects, and skins. As I'm writing this, TF2 currently has over 70 war paints, over 100 taunts, over 140 maps, 295 unusual effects, and 1,800 cosmetics.
I feel thin, sort of stretched, like butter scraped over too much bread.
Like a slab of butter spread over a large enough slice of toast, the interest of the TF2 community is being spread thin. It's difficult to even keep up with the amount of maps in the game at this point. The player base has been so far spread out due to the sheer volume of maps that it's difficult to even queue for a specific map at this point. There are so many unusual effects in the game that people can't even name most effects they see at a glance. I don't want to frame this as pointless bickering about new content because a decent amount of it has been quite good. Pelican Peak, for example, has become a favorite map of mine when queuing up for CTF. The problem isn't that new content is being added to the game. Rather, it's that the overwhelming majority of this content falls into the same narrow categories: hats, maps, effects, and taunts. In a way, I can't blame the TF2 community for ignoring this topic. For nearly 7 years straight, the game was plagued with bots, making it nigh unplayable. However, as of recording this, TF2 has been seemingly bot-free for over a month. Fingers crossed that this holds, but I think it's crucial to point out that the bots were far from the only fundamental issue with the game since 2018. I feel that most of the active player base now have joined after Jungle Inferno. I truly believe that a lot of them don't even know what they missed out on. As somebody who has been playing since 2011, I have been very disappointed with the formulaic update style that the game has adopted over the past 6 years. TF2 updates used to be like freeform jazz. You never knew what they might expand on or add to the game. Now they resemble pop music, implementing the same structures and ideas every year. Many may point out that the TF2's dev team is much smaller now than it was in its heyday, but that still does not excuse the lack of variety. There are many simple things that players have been dreaming of for years now that Valve could profit by adding to the game. As I am writing this, there is still a cornucopia of weapons that have no strange variant. The Eureka effect, the Buffalo Steak Sandwich, the Short Circuit, the Tide Turner, the Second Banana, the Sun on a Stick, and most notably, the Dragon's Fury. Most of these weapons have been in the game for over a decade now. In the case of the Dragon's Fury, it's absolutely absurd that there is no way to track your kills on such a viable, fun weapon. There are many players, self-included, that opt to only use strange weapons. The sense of progression you get from watching the kills stack over time is enough to keep a lot of people hooked. It's a passive way to flex your experience and provides a sense of pride and accomplishment when finally reaching Hail Zone. Since 2016, over 8 years ago now, we have not seen a single munition crate added to the game. If you're new to the game and you're unaware of what these are, it's how Valve used to distribute strange weapons. Similar to the cases that we have seen in recent years, they would randomly drop and you could open them with a key. Weapons unboxed this way will be strange, and you have a small chance at unboxing an unusual. The disappearance of these crates have caused the availability of strange weapons to completely crater. The price of some stranges are now pushing close to $400. Even formerly common strange weapons are now going for over $10. This is not acceptable. I say this as somebody who has many strange weapons, many of which are rare salvage crate weapons, sitting in his backpack right now. Strange weapons are supposed to be used. They're supposed to reflect the skill and experience of players who rack up kills on them over the years. This is something that would be trivial for Valve to address. Similar to how they've been dumping cases on us every year, they could simply add a munitions crate to the drop pool every spring and fall, printing money for Valve and giving the community a much-needed flow of new strange weapons. Even if Valve was hesitant to re-release valuable old stranges, they could simply add in a few reskins to allow the peasants to track their progress. On the topic of weapons, since Gunmetal, there have only been 3 unusual effects for weapons. 5 if you count Community Sparkle and Isotope, but those are so rare and unobtainable that I'm not even going to count those. This is almost unbelievable to me, as there are so many weapon effects on the Community Workshop. I also feel that it's kind of ridiculous that you can't get unusual effects on unskinned strange weapons. If Valve adds in a new munitions crate, perhaps they could add weapon unusual fires in as rare drops from the new munitions crates. That way people could apply those effects to their old, cherished, strange weapons. As somebody who was around when Man vs. Machine first dropped, I think it's difficult to express just how big of a deal it was when it first released. It was a complete reimagining of what TF2 could be. It was a refreshing break from the PvP format. Rather than fighting other people, you would bond together and fight the environment. The whole upgrade system was such a fun and intuitive way of playing the game. But now, it's become one of the most boring game modes in all of TF2. For 10 years now, the MVM community has been playing the same maps, farming the same drop pool, and playing with the same players. As of now, on the workshop, there are several community MVM maps. It would not be difficult for Valve to add these in as a new mission. People have been hungry for Gen 2 Australium since Two Cities released all the way back in 2014. The workshop is chock full of Australium skins and has several community killstreak effects available. This would be an effective way of making strange weapons obtainable once again while still retaining their value. Imagine an Australium gunslinger or an Australium original. Many people complain that MVM has become toxic and stale over the years. A new mission would breathe a new wave of life into the game, and more importantly, it would usher in a new generation of players into the community. This would print money for Valve in the long term as new players pile in to get their hands on fresh loot and buy man-up tickets. Now, for the more controversial part of this video. I see a lot of people purporting that TF2 is fine in a balanced state, and that Valve should not touch the balance of the game at all. This is something I disagree with on a fundamental level. To me, part of the magic of TF2 during its heyday was the shifting meta. Absolutely, Valve made a lot of mistakes. Set bonuses should have just never happened flat out. The old Danger Shield was a mess. The old Lock and Load was not fun to play against. The old Soda Popper, I don't even know what they were thinking. But it was always okay, because a rebalance was always right around the corner. These balance changes shifted the meta, and it made the game feel alive. Where we are now is that the meta has been stagnant for a very long time. I will say there are certainly less problem weapons than there used to be, but that doesn't mean a few buffs and nerfs wouldn't be welcome. I don't think it's too controversial to say that there are many dud weapons in the game that could use a buff or rework to keep them interesting. The Natasha, for example, is in a very weird state. It's neither fun to play with or against. One change that I doubt anybody would find controversial is to get rid of the slowdown effect and instead give the Heavy a speed buff whenever he hits an enemy, similar to the disciplinary action. This would keep with the theme of the weapon, while simultaneously making it more fun to play against. The Gas Passer has been the butt of all jokes since launch. It was and is a limp-wristed attempt at area denial. The sad thing is that I don't think its core concept is broken, but rather the execution. Afterburn is already an incredibly easy mechanic to play around. Between dispensers, medics, health kits, friendly pyros, more often than not, players will find a way to extinguish themselves before it becomes a problem. On top of this, the majority of Pyro's weapons already have more practical ways of dealing afterburn as is. Giving him a slow-to-charge grenade that just causes afterburn is laughably redundant. I propose that the whole charges between lives mechanic be dropped entirely, and it should function just like the Girardi or Mad Milk. Additionally, players who take fire damage while soaked with it should take mini crits just for the fire damage. And when they're ignited, they should take 25 damage immediately. This would cause spies and scouts to think twice before bum rushing a gas cloud. Perhaps, to balance this out, Valve could tweak the duration of the gas cloud. Whether you agree with my balance suggestions or not, I feel like TF2 could benefit from some experimentation. The gameplay has become stale over the years, and I feel like a lot of people are yearning for change. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of possible balance changes, but I feel that most people would argue that there's a lot of useless weapons in the game right now that could use some tweaks. The Buffalo Steak Sandwich, the Pompson 6000, the Enforcer, the Sandman, the Southern Hospitality, the Eviction Notice, the Liberty Launcher. All of these weapons and more come to mind as drab, terrible weapons that could use some tweaks just to shake them up. I feel like the TF2 community has been beat down over the years. People have forgotten how to ask for things. Valve has pushed out these formulaic updates for so long that people only think to ask for content that fits into these narrow categories. This has created a feedback loop where Valve is only adding the same things to the game. People see hats get added and they suggest hats that they like. They see a new bout of maps and the community rushes to make maps in hopes that they make it into the game. Imagine if instead of getting 10 new maps and a case each summer update, we received just 2 high-quality maps. In addition to the maps, we could get a new munition crate with new weapon unusual effects. A few balance changes could be added, nothing major, just a few small tweaks on already underutilized weapons, and throw in a few community MVM maps and make a mission out of it. This mission could drop community killstreak effects, and even a rare chance at dropping a Gen 2 Australium. Maybe for the Halloween update, the campaign could drop community Halloween spells. There's plenty of Halloween spells on the community workshop right now, and people have been itching for new spells to get added to the game since 2015. Overall, I hope to see a little more variety in TF2's updates going forward. I feel like TF2 is headed towards a very bloated state, if not already being in a very bloated state, and I don't think anybody wants to see that happen to the game. Also, I don't think any of the things they suggested in this video should require that much work to implement. I get it. TF2 is an older game and Valve doesn't have as big of a dev team working on it as it used to. Valve has shown that they do listen to the community. When the community raises issues, Valve does listen and they do change the way they work. An example of this would be when the community complained that the only cosmetics getting added to the game were gaudy, holiday-themed cosmetics, and Valve's response to that? Summer 2023. Now imagine if we made some noise about killstreak effects, about strange weapons, about balance changes, about things that people want to see in the game. I think they would get added. To that, I would say, if a lot of the things I said in this video resonate with you, I would urge you to go make some noise. Make your own video. Post about it on forums, talk about them in in-game chat. Go vote for items in the workshop that break the mold. If you want to see the game change, make your voice heard.